It's the Black Real Estate Dialogue. Tune in, tune in, tune in, tune in.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Black Real Estate Dialogue podcast. I am very excited for this episode today. Here with me, I have Ogechi, who is the founder of One Savvy Dollar. She's based in Long Island, New York. I'm from New York, so always glad to talk to a New Yorker. Thank you so much for joining the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Awesome. So for those who are listening, if you haven't already, please be sure to leave us a 5-star rating on whichever platform you're listening to this on. Please leave us a review as well. We greatly appreciate your support. It'll help us reach more people. So thank you in advance. Awesome. So could you start off and just share with the people who you are and where you're from and what you do?
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Ogechi, and I'm a financial educator. I'm a real estate investor, and I'm the founder of One Savvy Dollar. One Savvy Dollar is a personal finance platform for millennials, where we talk about money, talk about saving, budgeting, credit, just basically helping you make money, manage your money, and multiply your money as far as investing your money specifically in real estate. So I share a lot of my tips on Instagram, and of course on my website, onesavvydollar.com is where you can find me.
Awesome. Awesome. So we spoke a little bit off camera, but could you talk to us a bit about how you got started in real estate and what was it that was like, you know what, I want to buy a property? Can you talk us through how you even got there?
Yes. Okay. So I'm an immigrant. And where I'm from, we don't, we, we value land, like we value home ownership. And where I'm from, if you met a homeowner, most likely they own their home outright. So basically, in order to buy a home from my country, you would have to save up and build on your own, get the land, save up your money, and purchase the property, and, make any fixes if it needs some. Back then, there wasn't a lot of credit for like home loans, basically. So I think I was about 14 at the time. I was back home at the time, 14 years old. I was having a conversation with my mom, and she asked me, she said, should we buy a house or should we buy a car? That was her question. At the time we were renting. Mm-hmm. And, I was tired of taking the bus.
Yeah.
I was like, nah, let's just get a car. And she's like, okay, so when the landlord evicts us, where are we going to move to? The car? And, and then she said, I went away to boarding school, came back, and she said, we're going to the new house. I was like, oh, okay. Apparently, she had saved up, bought a fixer-upper. Now that I look back at it, that's really what it was. A fixer-upper, and she, just fixed the property, and that was it. So I think I was about 14 when that happened, and unknowingly at the time, that just kind of planted the seeds for me. Mm-hmm. So I migrated here at 18, and just right around 2007, like January of 2007, a few months before I turned 21, I was like, oh my God, my 21st birthday is coming. I have to do something. And for me, that something was owning a home. And when I started to research, I'm like, wait a minute, I don't even have to. So if a house is valued at $100,000, I don't even have to come up with $100,000. I could borrow like a fraction. The bank just wants a fraction of the money. And I was like, okay, that sounds great. Now you have to think back to 2007, because that's when I bought the house. The bank would have literally given anyone with a pulse a mortgage. That's just how it was. It was wild. Like compared to what it is now, it was a wild time, and Memorial Day weekend in 2007, sorry guys, I don't have any receipts, or pictures, but in 2007, I hopped on a plane from New York, because I was watching a lot of MTV at the time. First of all, New York was way too expensive for me. It's still too expensive. Yeah. I was watching a lot of MTV at the time, and I noticed that a lot of African-American entertainers were from Atlanta. They were from, the Georgia, Atlanta area. I was like, oh, okay, it's nicer weather, it's more affordable, and, there are a lot of Black people. That's just how I felt. And I felt a connection there. I started researching homes around there, found the seller. He owned like a bunch of homes, and we talked a little bit. And he said, you know what, no matter how much we talk, you're still going to have to come out here. You have to see the properties. That's how I'm going to know that you're serious about this. And I bought a ticket and I flew out there. And kids, do not do this, please. I did not tell anyone where I was going, and it was a very crazy trip because I didn't even plan. I didn't get a hotel. And I ended up, me and the cab driver driving around for like hours and hours and hours in the morning until someone checked out and I found a room. So, and then I met up with the seller, saw the house that was made by July. 2 to 3 months later, we closed on it, and that's how I bought my first home.
Wow. That's incredible. Where are you from?
I'm Nigerian.
Oh, cool. Okay, awesome. Wow. So that's 2007. Like now, right? We got the internet. Everyone's talking about investing. You got social media. You have multiple people you can check out about long distance. You got podcasts. Like,
yes.
But you had that thought in 2007. Like hadn't. It doesn't seem like you hadn't been here for that long. You were in New York. You were in New York, right?
Yes.
So you're in New York, and you're like, I'm gonna buy a house in Atlanta. Talk to us about that, like, because I know you mentioned some of it, but I think just at that time having that mentality is pretty amazing.
I think that I've always Again, I think it still goes back to a little bit to watching my mom do it. So I had a clear example, like a very direct example. My mom, because at the time, even when she needed to save to buy the home, if I wanted to get a dress, she's like, no, we're not getting a dress right now. We have to save up to buy this home. So I saw her struggle to buy home. Also, where I come from, we value home ownership. Like people die for land. People, like families fight over properties and stuff like that. So it can get really messy. So I think from a very long time, I've just always known the value. And then coming here and finding out that it's much easier. The process is much easier. I'm like, okay, so I don't need to come up with all this money. I could just come up with some of it, and if I have decent credit, then that helps. So I guess just having a clear and direct example in the form of my mom, and then getting into the American culture and finding out that turning 21 is like a big deal. Like, okay, like you're an adult now, like you could be, 18 and so, but turning 21 years, I just felt like that was a good way to start off my 21st year. And all of that. So and home ownership is actually the American dream. I'm not gonna, it is the American dream. That's why there's so many programs that help people buy homes, just for themselves. Not necessarily for investing, but just, if you want to buy a home to live in, there are so many programs that help with that. So
definitely. That's awesome. And you were 21. So, I mean, where were you working at that time? Like most 21-year-olds, they're not thinking about buying a house. They're thinking about like going out. They're thinking about hanging with their friends or, if they're in school. It's just a different mentality. So like, I guess around that time, were you working and just saving up? Like, were you like, yo, like I'm buying a house, I'm just going to make it happen.
I was working, I was saving some, but I had decent credit at the time. I think my credit was 721. Also, again, you have to go back to the timing of this. You could buy a house with literally no money down.
Wow.
In 2007, yes. You didn't have to put down anything. You didn't have to put down a lot. If you could, scrap up your closing costs, fine. But in some cases, some banks would even close, help you with the closing costs. So the times are completely different.
Yeah.
But I would say timing played a factor for me.
Yeah.
So I had opportunity, I had some luck, and I had some hard work. all of it. It was just the right moment for me. And when I look back at that time till now, I think I'm so glad I dived in right then. And I'm so glad I also didn't tell anyone at the time, because I would have been discouraged. I think people would have discouraged me if I had shared it with way too many people. They'd be like, no, you're probably too young. You don't know what you're doing. All sorts of stuff. And I never would have made that trip. I never would have, made that trip. And I'm glad I did, because it changed the trajectory of my life.
Yeah, definitely. I really like that you mentioned that. I can resonate with that. I also, invest long distance, and it was the same thing. Like, I kept it on the hush to like sign on the dotted line, you know what I mean? Because the thing is, like, what you did is unprecedented, not only for that time, not only for the age you were at, but there's probably nobody around you who even thought about something like that. So a lot of times, like, when it comes to like a new approach to something, people have like their fear. They might project their experiences on you. So I think, although it was kind of risky to like be on the low like that, especially back then, like, it turned out to be the right thing. Because like you said, we probably wouldn't be sitting here if you didn't take that chance.
No, I would. And I look back, if I looked back, I probably would have regretted it, not diving in much sooner, at the time. And that's the kind of life I don't want to have too many regrets in my life. I already have one, not investing in the stock market for a long time, because I was already in real estate, but I still could have invested some more. So see, that's one regret. Obviously, I've corrected all of that now, started investing, and that end is great. But again, I'm trying to work with less regrets in my life. So
definitely. So you're 21, you're living in New York, you have a property in Atlanta. How on earth are you managing this property? Like, how, like, did you have a plan at the time? Like, what talk to us about that.
Yes. So, okay. Again, honestly, if I could go back and thank that seller, the person who sold me the first, I still remember his name, because he did help me. He got me a tenant.
Wow.
He got me a tenant. Yes, when it was clear that I wasn't going to be, because initially I did want to move out there, because I just didn't like the fact that it was always cold here in New York. And I wanted to move out there, but it didn't work out. So he said, okay, that's not a problem. I'm going to help you get a tenant. And he found one for me and put her in there, did all the credit checks, put her in there. And and she stayed for like a good 3.5 years.
Wow.
So even when people talk about the recession and how bad the recession was, I honestly left unscathed. Okay, so other than the house, the value of the home dropping, but then again, I wasn't interested in selling the property. So it didn't matter. The value didn't really matter to me. It was rented out. I was getting my rent. The rent was more than the mortgage. So on my end, in some ways, I was kind of good. He helped me. He got me someone, and I still own that property till today.
Wow.
Hate to say it out loud. Maybe there is some emotional connection, because that's kind of like the house I grew up with.
Yeah.
Like the house literally made me an adult, because no matter what was going on in my life, I knew I had to pay a mortgage. So even if there was anything, wrong with the property, I'm like, nope, we have to pay the mortgage. I will never let, and this is not to say that, houses that go in foreclosure, maybe the owners don't try to, but I just told myself, I will never, I guess it's like a Jay-Z line. I won't, we're not with foreclosure. I will never forfeit. There's a line in his, I think, Forever Young, the song. So yeah, I just told myself that I will never foreclose on this house. So this bill has to be paid regardless of what's going on. He helped, and he got me someone, and I've owned the house now for good 2007 till now.
Yeah, almost 14 years.
I've only had one really horrible tenant.
Can you tell us about that?
That's
because I think it's important to have that. I'm thankful that you mentioned that, because things happen. So
yeah, you can't be in the game for a long time without any horror story. I'm sorry. No matter how good of a landlord you are, the universe won't spare you. You will run into that one person. So yeah, back to managing and stuff. The property is currently um, property is currently occupied. It's not really managed by anybody. I don't really, and the community is probably split on this. I don't really believe in property managers. That might change if I have maybe like a 32 unit building. Obviously,
Yeah.
I don't want to be dealing with 32 people. I'm just probably going to hand it off to management. So, but I'm not there yet. But as far as communicating one-on-one with all my tenants, they have my phone number. They can call me. I don't deal with manager. I just feel like they get in between me and the tenant. That's just my very personal opinion. And so it's currently rented out now. The tenant pays. I tell all of the, you're an adult. I don't, they've all paid from long distance every month, like clockwork. They just pay the rent. It's really not that complicated. If there's any issues, just call me. I'll get someone out there to have it fixed. But as far as your rent, you will just make the deposit. That's it. So that has been working out. As far as the tenants, glad you asked.
Before you dive into that, there's something you said. I don't want us to pass over that. So you mentioned that you don't believe in property managers, and the reason I want to call that out is because, well, at least for you, it's not a fit for you. Let me not.
Right. Exactly.
Let me not put words in your mouth. But
exactly,
it's not
for me.
It's not for you.
Right.
I recently.
Right now. Exactly.
I recently parted ways with my property manager I think in January, similarly because it felt like they were kind of getting in between. I'm like, look, it's one door. Like, I'm fairly confident I could figure this out. And from that point to this point, the person has paid. She's leaving. But like, I have boots on the ground. Like, I have someone who's able to help me do all the stuff, turn over all that stuff. Yeah, it's more coordination, but it's like, to your point, it's like there's nobody getting in between. So if something goes down and it messes up, you can blame yourself. I can blame myself if I don't get somebody placed or whatever. So the reason I want to highlight that is because it's not a real estate. It's not a one size fits all, right?
No,
like we've had guests with dozens of doors who have systems in place, who have people in the ground, and they just do it themselves, and there are just so many people who feel like a property managing a property is going to take all of your time up. It's not necessarily true.
No, it's not. Let me put it this way. You need a handyman more than you need a property manager. You need like 3 handymen on phone number, contact number on your phone. Someone who's good with everything, or someone who's good with plumbing. You need a handyman more than you need a property manager. You can manage your property yourself. The bigger issue you should be concerned with as the owner is screening. You got to screen. You have to have your criteria for screening people. If you can get that part right, trust me, you've done like 70% of the work. Because if you have a good person on your property, you will not have as many issues. The tenant that's over there right now, she's been there since, I think, 3.5 years, roughly. I don't know that. No, I have not seen her. Now I do have an agent, my agent Sherry Wyatt. She's great. She helped me find her. She did all the due diligence, and I was fine paying her, whatever I had to pay her that one time. But she's not my manager. I did tell her that she owns the house. What I mean by that is that if I ever decided to sell it, I would list it with her. So in that way, and she's great. But and she's like my boots on the ground, kind of. So going back to it, you need a handyman more than you need a property manager. And if you can screen right, if you get a good tenant and screen them properly, if you screen them properly, you stand a better chance of having less horror stories. And if we go back to my tenant from hell, that was my problem. I did not screen him. That was the problem. He was a referral from the like from the tenant that was there. So I had a tenant, he was moving out and he was moving to a different state for a new job. And that tenant had been with me for like 2 years. And he was a good tenant. He was a good tenant. We had a great relationship. If he had any issues, he was handy as well. So if anything happened, he would help fix it. If he couldn't pay rent, say like by the first, he would tell me and I'll give him more time. I said, just tell me the date you're gonna have it and we'll figure it out from there. So we had that kind of relationship. So when he told me he was leaving, but that he had someone, there was someone who could take over the place. I transferred trust. I transferred the trust that I had with him to that person and never screened that person. And that was my biggest mistake ever. And, he moved in, stayed for like 2-3 months. And then all the stories started. And it just became this whole thing. Then he filed bankruptcy. Then he listed just me as his creditor. He was just trying to avoid, he was trying to. And I think because I'm an out-of-state landlord, or maybe because I'm a woman, maybe he just thought I wouldn't come after him. I'm like, oh no, you've caught the right one.
Yeah.
And I went after him, went through the whole bankruptcy stuff, because the eviction court is a lower court than the bankruptcy court is a federal court. So if someone files bankruptcy, but they're going through an eviction, you have to stop, because you're in the lower court is going to tell you that the higher court has the higher power. So you're going to have to wrap up whatever you have over there with the bankruptcy before you can come back. And he failed to show up at bankruptcy court. He didn't show up, and then the judge found in my favor. So I went back to the magistrate court, continued my case. He showed up in court this time. I showed up as well, and the judge found in my favor and said, you got to move. You owe back rents. What are you doing? And this was back in 2014, actually.
Got it. Thank you for sharing that story. So you got your first property. What was next? Like, as far as investing more, did you decide to invest more? Like, where did your journey go from there?
Yeah, shortly after the first one, about 8 months later, I bought the second one. But this time I stayed here in New York, and that's how my journey upstate began. And I met the second seller. The story is almost similar. This time, the only exception is I drove up as opposed to flying out. I met a seller with several properties in an area, and I bought my second property, which I still own. And the seller, my property is in between the seller's two properties. So my property is in the middle of his two properties, which he still owns. So in some ways, he helps me with that. I spoke to him today, Mark, and that's how we become friends. And he kind of became sort of like a mentor.
Yeah.
So
definitely. So did you, so you mentioned a couple times about the sellers. Were you just like reaching out directly to sellers?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, just go online, go on the internet, just Google houses in Atlanta. And then whoever at the time the first seller, Mike, or was his name Tyson? I don't know. I think Mike. He just owned. I think he had a listing. He just had like a website with like a bunch of his houses, and that was it. And when I Googled homes in, I think Atlanta or Georgia or whatever, it was his that came up. It had a contact number, and I was just sitting, researching, dialing. The same thing with the guy upstate. I just kept Googling and saw a number, and I called it, and he said, "You're gonna have to come up and see the properties for yourself. Let me know when you're in town." He's a much older man. He's retired now. Mark, the first guy was Mike. The second guy is Mark. Mark is very, very straight to the point. He's like, you're gonna have to come up here and see the properties and let me know. So
Definitely. That's like in the Albany, New York area.
mhm.
Got it. So what got you interested in that? What made you think like, all right, Albany seems like a decent place to invest in?
It was more affordable.
Yeah.
That's it. It was
Yeah.
more affordable. It's also the state capital,
Hmm.
is it? Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think it is. Yeah.
it is now. I think it used to be New York, Manhattan, and then they moved it up there. So I just figured it was a good place to invest. Anywhere or almost anywhere is a good place to invest, depending on that particular neighborhood, you know, and then the house you buy. So
Yeah. No, I agree.
Hi everyone, Sam here from Black Real Estate Dialogue. Make sure to hit that notification bell and that subscribe button and to visit us at blackrealestatedialogue.com.
Are you looking for a community of like-minded individuals and access to experts in real estate?
Yeah.
Are you interested in real estate but need more support and guidance?
You know who it is?
The Black Real Estate Dialogue presents the Real Estate Investing Community. No matter how much or how little real estate experience you have, we've created a community for you because your perspective is important. All right, tell me, where's the number one place where you can do Q&A with experienced guest speakers 2 times per month? How about unlimited access to past guest speakers' recordings? What about a private Slack channel to engage in daily discussion with everybody in the community to share resources and support each other? Head on over to blackrealestatedialogue.com. That's blackrealestatedialogue.com. It's the real estate investing community presented by the Black Real Estate Dialogue. Come join us today.
I agree. And the reason I asked you that is because, Albany, New York, right? If you're not from New York or you don't have people from New York, it's very likely, unless you paid attention when they told the state capitals in school, that you never heard of Albany, New York. So what I want to emphasize, and I would love you to share about, is like, so many people think it has to be like this big, amazing city. Oh, I got to invest in LA. I got to invest in Atlanta, which now is a different ballgame. Or I got to invest in New York City. I got to invest in Seattle. I got to invest in the big cities of these places. No. Like, can you talk to us more about that?
That's a very good question, actually. No, you don't have to invest in all those places. You don't have to start your journey there. Start small. I'm a big believer in starting small, so that when you make mistakes, you're making small mistakes. Because when you start with the big areas, when you make mistakes, your mistakes are much bigger. Start small. Start where you can. Start with the $50,000 homes that you probably need to do like $10,000 worth of work, or $5,000, a paint job here. Get somebody. There's always somebody looking for work. Verify them. Get them to help you do the stuff, even if it's weekends, from Friday, spend a weekend in a month fixing up a place. You actually don't even want to start with those, $500,000 homes as an investment property. I'm sorry, but they're just not going to be profitable. They're not going to be profitable unless you're either investing for cash flow or you're investing for appreciation. I invest for cash flow. I almost don't care about appreciation, yet appreciation has come on my properties. So it's like a win-win. I've enjoyed cash flow, and all the monies that I get, all my profits, I roll them up, roll them into the next buy, roll them up, roll into the next buy. Hopefully, right now I have a rehab going on and it's almost done. Once that gets done, I'll refinance, pull my cash out. It's a great time. Or I could put it on the market at a ridiculously low price and then have people bid on it. I don't know. We'll see how I feel when I'm done. But yeah, and that was a very small rehab. It wasn't like a whole big thing. It was just one floor of the apartment that we fixed, but the upstairs is rented out. So that upstairs is bringing some income to at least pay the bills for now. So start small. Please don't look at, and a lot of people say, okay, well, this area is too expensive for me. This is too expensive, because that's like the flip side of the question you asked.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's too expensive. Well, there are so many areas that are not expensive. Go there, fly there. You would fly to Cancun to go have a good time. Why don't you buy an investment property that can help you fly to Cancun?
Mm.
See?
That's it
Buy
right there.
assets. Yeah, buy assets that help you enjoy life, that help you, you know, pay for your liabilities. Don't spend all your money going to Cancun. I'm not saying you shouldn't live your best life, because every time we talk about that, people tend to say, well, what? It's only you. We only have one life to live. Well, you know, you could die right now. No, you're not going to die right now, please. You're not going to die right now. Buy the assets. You know, set yourself up. You can set yourself up for success
Mm-hmm.
and enjoy life. Actually, you enjoy life better when you set yourself up. A while ago, 2 years ago, 2019, I went to Portugal for my birthday. By then, I already had a bunch of properties, and my birthday is the 28th of April, so it's towards the end of the month. So we were there. We got back on, I think, April 30th. Yeah, April 30th. But I took May 1st off from work, and I remember like waking up to alerts on my phone of just rents coming in. And I think that was the first time it dawned on me that this could be a life. Like, this is life. This is this is it. You can own properties, and just on the first of the month, I mean, there's something else to look forward to in your life. So I don't know.
Love
Buy
it.
assets.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Um, Amazing. So did you like continue to invest in the Albany area after the second property, or did you kind of work on some other things? Like what did where did your career or your investing take shape from there?
Well, after the second one, I just kind of stopped because I was still in school. Obviously, I needed to focus, so I got my bachelor's, got my master's, got into $26,000 student loan debt. And of course, the first time I realized, I was like, wait a minute, what's going on? You know how you pull up your student loans and there's like 12 loans, like,
Yeah.
subsidized, unsubsidized. What is this? Direct plus Stafford loan. Like, what is going on here? But then obviously I was the one who borrowed all of that money. So I started paying it back gradually. And all the properties that I had, just helped me pay off the balance. So I paid it off 2017
Wow.
as a gift, as a birthday gift to myself. So every time I celebrate my birthday, I also celebrate being student loan free. So
How does that feel?
that's
How did that feel and how does that feel?
it feels great.
Yeah.
It feels great. Like, I literally said goodbye to Nelnet, and it feels great. I will say though that I graduated with $26,000, but I also got tuition reimbursement
Got
from a
it.
job. So I made sure that I worked for a company that helped me that offered tuition reimbursement, so they could, because I should have graduated with 52,000.
Wow.
So I should have graduated with more money, but because of the tuition reimbursement, I was able to graduate with way less. And that led me to creating a directory where you can find companies that offer tuition reimbursement.
Wow.
Hmm.
Tell
It
us more
is
about that.
life.
Let's segue into
It is,
that.
yes, thank you. Please, let's.
Yeah.
So it is live on the site right now. You can sign up. That I think of everything that I've done, that is my life's work. That directory, putting that directory together, because I wanted, it was a long journey, just from idea, taking an idea and bringing it straight to life. I wanted to create something that I wish I had when I was going to school, when I was searching at the time. I kept looking, and I couldn't find anything. And putting the directory together, you can search by company, you can search by industry, You can, because we just launched like about a week or two ago. You could search the directory is constantly being updated, but you could search by amount, because the amount that each company offers is very different. Some offer you more, some offer you less, some are unlimited. Some companies have contractual obligations, some companies have, like from day one of hire, you get the reimbursement versus, okay, no, you have to wait till you are, till your, what is it called? What's the word? Till your probation. Some companies say you have to wait for like 6 months or a year before we offer that. So you get a chance to see and pick and plan, because for some people, student loan debt will be the reason why they can't invest in real estate.
Mm-hmm.
There is a direct correlation between student loan debt and people's inability to buy homes.
Yep.
To either buy homes for themselves or buy homes as an investment property. And if you decide that that the property you're buying is an investment property, the criteria is even much higher, because you have to put more monies down, you have to have reserves, the stakes are higher.
Yep.
Basically. So it was necessary to create that. And there are a lot of parents who co-sign these loans with their kids, often to the detriment of investing in their retirement account.
Mm-hmm.
So most parents want to be good parents, and they're like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to help my kid. But your kids can borrow for school. You can borrow for retirement.
Yeah.
So again, thinking about that, I'm like, okay, this is for the person, the person who is young and, this is for the person who's young, who's ready to go to school, but just can't afford it on their own. This is also for the parent who wants to help their kids. So you can go in there, start being proactive, searching these companies so that you can position and target them. When people talk about student loans and student, I'm like, go find a company that offers tuition reimbursement. Now, it's not a guarantee that, all of your, you're not going to graduate with student loans, but you'll graduate with way less than you should have. $26,000 was better than $52,000.
Yep.
It's better than $100,000. Some people have student loans, the amount of a mortgage or the price of a home.
Yep.
So, yeah,
true.
we have to be, especially our community, especially Black women. The statistics is not good for us. We go to school and we're more in debt, I think, than everybody else, actually. Wow. So, yeah.
Definitely. Thanks for sharing some more information about that. So as far as your investing journey, you mentioned like you got out of debt, which is awesome. Did you continue to buy more in that area when you started back up again?
Yes, I continue to buy in that area. If you find a system that works for you, just stick to it.
Yeah. Don't
try to fix it if it ain't. If you find a system, and somehow too, when you buy in an area, you find out that it's a good area, and you start owning more, it increases your connection to that area. You start to know more people in that. You start to become a little bit more familiar with that area. I mean, my knowledge of where I invest now versus before I started investing, or should I say when I owned only one property at the time, it's completely different. So the more you invest in an area, if you've picked one area, then, and it's a good, you've done the math, everything checks out, just keep buying in that area. That way you can build relationships. You can, set yourself up there as well. So now I just shuttle between here, there, and sometimes Atlanta.
Yeah, definitely. That's awesome. Where's the portfolio stand out now? About how many doors would you say you have now?
Right now, 9 doors.
Nice.
Not a lot.
That's I think that's a lot. I got one. And I'm sure a lot of people on here will be like, hey, she got 9. I think that's awesome. Is it like single family or a mix?
No, I don't do single family.
Oh, so they're all multifamily.
My first is the
Okay.
only single family I do. So here's a tip. Stay away from single family.
Tell us more
Now
about
the
that.
community, the community, you like asking these questions that just kind of put me, you know, people are gonna say have different opinions,
Yeah,
just like
yeah.
the property manager
Yep.
conversation. I don't believe in single family homes as investment properties. Now, single family home, if you want to live in it and you don't want to be bothered by anybody, because obviously now you're the internet, you're on Instagram, so you see all these house hacking and stuff like that, and that's great. Single family is great for you too if you just don't want to be bothered with people. But as far as investing goes, just buy more doors. The more doors you can buy on one property, the better it is. The better it is. You you minimize your risk by having, so let's say you bought a fourplex. It's almost impossible. The pandemic aside, just let's kind of just take the pandemic, whatever is going on right now out of the equation. But it's almost impossible for all four doors to be empty at the same time. No matter what, at least someone's gonna, even if it's one person or two or three, at least you're gonna have occupants. If you own a single family home, the day that one person tells you I'm leaving, well, there you go. You're right back to zero, where you have to put your own money. With the fourplex or the triplex, even if one person left, you still have monies coming in at least before you begin to put your own money. So maybe you might lose your profit. You might lose, a little bit of money, but just having more doors minimizes your risk of your investment versus just having one door. And if you saw a single family property, let's say I'm just throwing numbers, let's say for $100,000 and it costs 30,000 or 40 or an extra 50,000 to buy, let's say triplex or duplex, just do it. Just go find how you make that extra gap, the difference in between, and just get. I'm not saying you shouldn't buy a single family property. If that's, if you're, some people, no matter what you tell them, they still want to do what they want to do.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying the path that I took. My first property is the only single property home in my portfolio. By the time I bought my second property 8 months after, it was a 2-family home.
Yeah.
I just knew that I couldn't buy another single family home. And I've bought duplexes ever since then. So I don't even look at single family homes on, like, they're filtered out of my search. I don't want to see them. I don't want to ooh and ah over them because I'm just not going to buy it.
Well, you know what you want, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Could you talk to us about your brand, One Savvy Dollar? Right?
Yes.
One Savvy Dollar. I would, look through your page and I think it's awesome. Of course, we'll have that in the show notes. But could you just talk more about starting that page and then talk about, your courses and just the different things that people can access with you?
Yes, thank you. Starting my Instagram page, I had to really decide what I was, going to talk about. I'm a certified financial educator. We didn't get a chance to talk about my career because I do actually still have a job.
Oh yeah, let's talk about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not to get into it too much, but I started off in the financial industry, which also helped me as far as an individual and as far as making less mistakes with my personal life, because I got to see, I literally had front row seats to other people's lives and just seeing how decisions made, impacts you just all over, and how easily it is to get caught up in the financial system where you're not getting ahead because you're just entangled in this system. Anyways, so being a certified financial educator, I because Instagram is, and people are going to tell you again, another split, oh, just talk about real estate or just talk about personal finance. But I think personal finance and real estate are together.
Yep.
You kind of need to take care of your personal finances before you get in, because owning real estate as is a business.
Yep.
Once you step into the real estate space, you have a business. And most of your actions, if you don't have a firm grip on your own personal finances, you're going to have a hard time. Not that it's impossible for you, but you're just going to have a hard time dealing with your rental, because if you think you have bills on, your personal life, well, your real estate bills are, listen, there's trash, there's water, there's taxes, there's this, there's all kinds of stuff going on there. So I had to decide, and I said, it's personal finance and real estate investing, and that's what we talk about, because you have to have a solid personal finance game to be, in my opinion, and in my experience. So it's not just opinion. In my experience, it's much better for you if you have a good personal finance foundation before getting into real estate.
Definitely. And then do you have courses and different offerings that people can access as well?
Yes. On the website, onesavvydollar.com, you could, of course, access the tuition reimbursement directory. Please, sign up, check it out. It's very new. You will not find another directory. There is no directory. So this is literally you signing up. You're literally one of our early adopters. Basically, if you're in the entrepreneurial space, you are a first user. So sign up for it. It's a great directory. You can search by company, industry, and all of that. And basically, the goal is to ensure that you have way less student loan debt. So there's that. You could access my courses online. The real estate investing course, it's right there. I teach you everything that you need to know. It's literally like you literally have my brain.
Yeah.
When you take my course, I show you step by step what you should do, what you should avoid doing. And the goal, again, is to help you minimize your sub stories, because in real estate, you need to have a tough skin. I'm fair and firm. That's what, when people ask me, because when I started, I was really young. I mean, I had tenants who would tell me, oh, you could be my child's age. I don't care about that. I don't need to know if I could be your, this is the business. I don't, so I tried not to get into how old I am, because like I said, when I first started out, I was really young. But yeah, I show you what to do, how to basically minimize your losses, because in real estate, when you start having those losses, those L's are not, they're not cheap.
Yeah.
They're not cheap. You could get into thousands in losses very quickly.
Yeah.
And it's a 3-week course that basically guides you from start to finish, which you have lifetime access to once you sign up.
We'll definitely have that in the show notes. This was a fun interview. I've learned a lot. Like, I'm sitting here like a student. This is how I usually am during the interviews, just sitting back learning. But yeah, I mean, I think just to recap, in the beginning we started, right? You 2007, you just turned 21. You're like, I'm buying a house. Not only am I buying a house, I'm buying a house out of state. So I think you were forward thinking in that way, whether you probably didn't realize that at that time.
I didn't. Now that, we have Instagram, we have all of this stuff. And, a lot of people are like, oh my God, I'm so scared to invest out of state. And I'm like, sometimes I can't even say, I'm like, Ogechi, you must have been crazy to get on a plane and go to, and I did it. Now I have friends there. Now I know a ton of people there. Now, I'm like out there, I'm like, yes, I'm with my peeps. But back then I knew nobody.
Yep.
I didn't know, because people keep asking when they hear why Atlanta, like they keep thinking that I knew somebody. No, I knew nobody. I met with a seller that I was talking to online. We didn't have Facebook check-in where you could like check in how people, check in right now. We didn't have Instagram. We didn't have everything that we have now.
Yeah.
And that was, I don't know. I'm thankful. I just recently celebrated a birthday, and I was like, this birthday is for the 21-year-old that I was. Like, this
Yeah.
birthday is dedicated to you, because it's because of you I can live the life that I want now. Yeah, I don't know. So when people
Yeah.
talk about out of state investing, I'm like, yeah, it's possible. You could
It
do
is.
it. You
It's
just
very, very,
you
very
do.
possible. Very, very
And
possible.
there's so many resources now as
Yeah.
opposed to back then. There's so many ways to connect with people, so many ways to make new friends in a different state. Find out, call up agents, spend an afternoon calling up agents and asking them questions. And more people are willing to share information today with you. So it's anything is possible. If you want it, go out and get it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, this has been a great interview. I think it's just great that you just were creative, you use your resources, you just had an open mind, you went from Atlanta to upstate, and now you're helping people with their finances, helping people invest out of state. So I'm excited to continue following the journey, and seeing where things go, and how much more you'll succeed in the future.
Thank you. Thank you, Sam.
Definitely. And before we go, could you let everyone know where they can find you, where they can follow you and access all your resources one more time?
Yes, you can find me on Instagram at One Savvy Dollar. It's two V's, so ONESAVVY dollar. And online, you can find me at onesavvydollar.com. Um, that's where I am primarily online on the web, onesavvydollar.com, and on Instagram at OneSavvyDollar.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining. I really do appreciate it. And thank you to everyone for listening to another episode of the Black Real Estate Dialogue podcast. If you're interested in any of our resources, blackrealestatedialogue.com is the best way to find everything. Thank you so much. I look forward to hearing from you all soon.